Brought to you by Penguin.
Granny National by Rachael Blackmore. Read by Amy McAllister. Chapter 1. Freedom at Last. "Rescue!" Rachael shouted suddenly, and she took off. A teeny tiny head start might just make the difference. "Hey!" Frankie groaned as she launched off after her, tennis racket grasped firmly in her hand and school bag thumping up and down on her back. The two friends sprinted past the solid stone gate pillars that marked the entrance to the farm, and on up the narrow, winding avenue that spiralled into a dark mass of ancient woodland. Impressive leafy trees arched and intertwined above their heads, shielding them from the beams of sunshine and making the air green and cool. They dared not run close to the edge of the tarmac, as the stray branches were reaching forward like bony fingers, trying to pluck them into the shadows. They flung themselves round the final sharp bend, where the avenue turned abruptly before forking off into 3 driveways. Straight on was the farmyard. To the right was Rachael's house, which was perfectly rectangular and painted stark white, with a red front door that had 2 windows on either side and 3 balanced evenly on top. And to the left was Rachael's grandparents' house, which couldn't look any more different from her own house if it tried. "I'm catching up!" Frankie roared with glee. Rachael's lungs felt like they might explode, but she forced herself to keep running. "Go, go, go," she told herself. "Keep going, don't stop." They hung to the left, making their way to Rachael's grandparents' house. The finish line was always the same. The first one to touch the dilapidated black Morris Minor, a tiny old car that had been inexplicably abandoned halfway up the avenue, now nestled between some shrubbery like it had grown there. "Almost there. I'm going to do it," Rachael thought. Finally, she was going to win. She wanted to shout it to Frankie, but weighing everything up, she knew that would take too much precious energy, and her voice was nowhere to be found at this critical stage. "Ha ha! Later!" she heard Frankie shout. It was like Frankie had turbo boost on her runners. She pumped her arms, lifted her knees higher and forged ahead, leaving Rachael behind. "No!" Rachael gasped, the crisp air cutting the back of her throat. "I win!" roared Frankie, as she slapped the bonnet of the antique motor and flung her school bag against its rusted wheel. "Not again!" panted Rachael, as she stumbled to the finish line a few strides behind Frankie, then leaned over, her hands on her knees. "You get me every time!" Feeling deflated and sorry for herself, Rachael flung her bag next to Frankie's. While Rachael sucked in air to refill her nearly empty lungs, Frankie began swinging her tennis racket around in mock practice. She whizzed it through the air, back and forth. Whiz whoosh, whiz whoosh, whiz whoosh. She loved the sound as the wind snapped through the strings, and couldn't for the life of her understand why it seemed to annoy everyone else so much. "Stop it! Stop swinging your racket!" Rachael said. Frankie laughed. "You sound like my mum." She whiz-whooshed a few more times. "Stop!" Rachael said, reaching up and grabbing Frankie's hand to stop the next powerful slice through the air. "Hey!" Frankie said. "That was match point, and my winning forehand down the line to beat Aneres Smelu." Rachael shook her head. "And you say the racehorses can have strange names. Is that the name of an actual real-life tennis player?" "Of course it is," Frankie said. "How could you not know that? She's amazing. All I want is to be as good as her." Rachael smiled. "Come on, let's go on up to the house and see my granny." They began walking up the rest of the avenue, but out of nowhere, the white bonnet of the Jeep appeared, coming straight in their direction, zigzagging around the potholes. A cold shiver went through Rachael's spine at the sight of her Grandad and his glaring eyes. It felt like that glare pierced right through the windscreen like a dagger and cut right into her. Instinctively, she reached her hand out, grasping Frankie's tightly and pulling them both out of the way into some bushes. It was lucky she'd...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?